Hey, welcome back to the WellBeing Check, your 20-minute check-in for purposeful, growth-minded women who are ready to go deeper than just tips and tricks. I'm Stephanie Cunningham, and today we're getting into the one I teased last episode, loving detachment, aka the art of not giving a shit about what other people think. Ooh, but also way more than that, because loving detachment isn't about not caring. It's about caring so deeply about your own peace that you stop letting other people's energy run the show. Got it? This one is close to my heart. I work on this with clients every single day, and I've done and continue to do this work myself. So you're in good company. Here's the deal. As a highly sensitive person and empath, I spent a big chunk of my life in a low-grade state of anxiety about what other people thought of me. Was I doing enough? Being enough? Did I say something wrong? Were they mad? Did I annoy them? Was I too much? Not enough? It's exhausting. And if any of that sounds familiar, welcome. You're in the right place. What I've come to understand is that this kind of people-pleasing, approval-seeking pattern doesn't come from nowhere. For a lot of us, it's rooted in something much deeper. Our relationship with our parents, old wounds, the need to be in control, the fear that we're not worthy or as lovable as we truly are. For some of us, it's personality. We just process and feel things deeply. And then for others, it's conditioning. For most of us, it's a mix of all of it. Just so we're clear, I'm not a clinical psychologist, and attachment, codependency, and detachment are genuinely layered topics. What I am is a coach with personal experience. And what we're doing here is awareness and navigation, not diagnosis. But awareness, that's exactly where it starts. We all have people in our lives whose opinion of us matters more to us than it probably should, right? A parent, a boss, an ex, a sibling, that friend who has a way of making you feel like nothing you do is ever quite right. And regardless of why their voice got so loud in your head, the work of loving detachment is learning how to turn the volume down. For me, it's been a mix of coworkers, managers, exes, and a few family members. All kinds of different people. People who, despite my best efforts, seem to take up way more real estate in my brain than was appropriate or useful. Things have gotten better. The tools I'm going to share with you today have genuinely helped, but I'd be lying if I said the battle was completely over. It's a practice, just like anything else, and some days are easier than others. So what is loving detachment? I love this phrase. Connected to everything, but attached to nothing. Attachment is rooted in fear, and you lose your fear of loss when you realize, really realize that you're already whole. Amazing in theory, I know. Difficult in practice, I also know. The concept of loving detachment, also called conscious detachment or conscious connection, invites you to release the weight you've given other people's thoughts, opinions, and reactions, not with judgment towards them, not with judgment towards yourself, just release. That last part, without judgment of them or yourself, is pretty difficult, especially when you're in the thick of it, especially when the interaction felt like a direct attack on your character or your worth. But here's what loving detachment actually feels like when you're practicing. It feels like awareness. Noticing what's happening in the conversation, in the room, in the relationship, without immediately being swallowed by it, without energy or emotion connected to it. It feels objective, almost like you're watching a situation from the outside, like it's playing out on a screen and you're the observer, not the main character in somebody else's drama. It feels like observation rather than judgment. You're taking in information, not making assumptions about what someone else is thinking, feeling, or intending. You're a witness. It feels compassionate toward yourself and toward the other person. We all come from different backgrounds, different wounds, different ways of seeing the world. Compassion doesn't mean you condone. It means you understand that people are complicated, and so are you. Remember that. So are you. And ultimately, loving detachment feels connected, not disconnected, connected to the bigger human experience, to the understanding that we are all navigating a complicated web of relationships, needs, and fears. The need to survive, the need to belong, the need to be loved. These are all powerful forces. Loving detachment doesn't take you out of that web. It just keeps you from getting tangled in someone else's thread. Now, because this trips people up, let me be really clear on what loving detachment is not. It is not isolating yourself from others. It is not disconnecting from the people you love. It is not deciding that relationships simply don't matter at all. It's not checking out from your life. Relationships matter. Connection matters. We established that last episode. It is literally hardwired into us. Loving detachment is not a wall. It's a filter. Think about it this way. You can be fully present with someone, fully loving towards someone, and still not let their chaos become your crisis. You can care deeply about a person without adopting their anxiety, their judgment, or their narrative about who you are or who other people are. That is loving detachment. Fully in, but not swept away. All right, let's get into the how do we do this. I know it sounds like easy, but then hard at the same time. So let's get into how it actually works. Here are 5 steps to practicing loving detachment. And I use the word practicing intentionally because that's what it is. It's a practice. It's not a destination. It's not like you do this one time and you're never going to have to do it again. You're definitely going to have to practice it. So step 1, recognize the feeling. Instead of just being in the feeling, become aware of it. There's a difference between experiencing an emotion and noticing you're experiencing it. The moment you can say, I'm feeling anxious right now, or I'm feeling triggered by this, you've already created a tiny bit of space in between you and the feeling. And that space is everything. For those of us who are highly sensitive, this step takes real practice. We feel things fast. The emotional response can come before we even know what hit us. So slowing that down, even by a few seconds, is genuinely powerful. Detach from the feeling. Once you've recognized it, pull back. Not suppress it. That's different. You're not shoving the feeling down. You're stepping slightly outside of it so you can think more clearly. Imagine putting the feeling on a shelf for a moment. It's still there. You can see it. You're just not inside of it anymore. This is where you move from reactive to responsive. And that shift from reactive to responsive changes the dynamics. Step 3, ask yourself questions. From that slightly detached, clearer place, get curious. Why does this person's opinion matter so much to me right now? Is this actually about what they said or did? Or is there something older underneath it? Is it possible I'm projecting something I feel about myself onto them and then receiving it back? That's called mirroring, by the way. And it happens too, fast and often. So what questions do is they create distance from the story, and distance lets you see more clearly. Step 4, witness the facts of the moment. Ask yourself honestly, what do I actually know for certain right now? What is a fact and what is a story I'm filling in with my own anxiety or assumption? We are incredibly good at taking small amounts of real information and spinning it into a whole big blown out portion of a situation. A narrative that feels completely true, but is likely almost entirely invented. We've all done that, right? Stick to the facts. What actually happened? What was actually said? Just that. And then decide how you want to respond to the actual reality, not the story you created. Now we're at step 5. Take loving action. Here, decide what to do. But make sure you ask this question. Does the action I'm considering actually support my well-being, or is it feeding my ego? Because if your instinct is to argue, to make someone see your point, to prove you're right, ask yourself who that's really for. Is it for you, genuinely? Or is it for the part of you that's running on fear? Fear of being wrong, fear of being seen as weak, fear of losing control of the narrative. Sometimes the most loving action for yourself and the other person is to walk away from the moment. Step outside, take a breath, let it go. Not as avoidance, but as a reset. You know when it's helpful and you know when it isn't. Listen to that voice. Listen to that instinct. A workshop participant once shared this tip that I loved and have never forgotten. They said, don't play games. Don't say, I'm not texting her until she texts me first. That's not detachment. That's just attachment in a different costume. If you find yourself thinking like that, then it's a sign that it's time to look inward, not outward. I thought that was really profound. The last thing I want to share today is one of the most powerful shifts I've ever made, and also one of the hardest. And that is trading assumption for acceptance. Assumption is accepting something as true without proof. It's the story we tell ourselves about what someone meant, about why they did what they did, about what they think of us. We fill in the blanks. And we usually fill them in with our worst fears. Acceptance is something entirely different. It's the recognition that you cannot change the current nature of a person or a situation, and consciously choosing to stop fighting that reality. It doesn't mean you approve. It doesn't mean you're okay with harmful behavior. It doesn't mean you stay. What it means is you stop letting the unchangeable thing continue to cost you your peace. Acceptance is actually an active process. It's not passive resignation. It's a conscious, ongoing choice. I see this person clearly. I accept who they are right now. And I'm going to make decisions about how and whether I engage with them based on that clarity right now, rather than based on who I wish they were or who I keep hoping they'll become. That shift from assumption to acceptance is one of the most powerful tools for managing anxiety I have ever encountered, because so much of our anxiety lives in the gap between what is and what we wish it were. Acceptance closes that gap. In my own life, what has helped me the most in recovering from approval addiction, and yes, I will call it that because that's what it is getting deeply in touch with myself, understanding my own core values, understanding what I like, what I don't, how I want to live my life, and making choices that feel aligned with who I actually am. The more connected I am to myself, the less external validation I need. When you know yourself, really deeply know yourself, other people's opinions don't have as much power. Not because you stop caring about people, but because you have something solid inside you to come back to. You don't need them to confirm who you are because you already know. And that right there is freedom. I want to leave you with this. Loving detachment is about loving smarter, including loving yourself enough to protect your peace. You are not responsible for managing everyone else's feelings, reactions, and perceptions of you. You are responsible for showing up as honestly and as lovingly as you can, and then letting go of the outcome. That's the work. It's ongoing. It's not linear. Some days you'll practice it beautifully, and other days someone will say the exact right thing in the exact wrong tone, and you'll be all the way in your feelings before you even see it coming. And that's okay. You're human. What matters is that you have the tools to come back. And now you have a few more. So what's one thing from today that stuck? Please drop it in the comments or just write it in your journal. And if this one hits close to home, or you know it will for someone else, share it. I promise you, there are millions of us that need to hear this. Thanks for being here. Really, I will see you next time. And next up, putting yourself first without feeling like a bad parent, spouse, friend, or employee. Yowza! Clearly, I've been there. Of course, if you have a topic you'd like to see covered, the space is yours. Let me know. Drop it in the comments. I'd love to take it on. If you want to connect or book a session, you can find me at revelationu.com, email me at revelationyou.com@gmail.com, or of course, find me on Facebook or Instagram. Until next time, be well, my friends.